Sure. Hi, I'm Amanda Lonsdale. I'm the Chief Investment Officer for the Climate Finance for Development Accelerator, which is the USAID flagship climate finance project. Based on a lot of the analysis that I've done, some of the most impactful tools are grants, really, for drilling. The earlier we can, alleviate some of the capital requirements for developers, the better. There are a number of these programs around the world. The EU has a program for drilling for district heating. The Geothermal Risk Mitigation Fund in Africa has drilling risk grants, and there's sort of a sister mechanism also in Latin America called GDF. Those are some of the most useful ones. We're starting to also see some insurance coming back into the space. So really anything that can help both offset some of those very high costs as well as de-risk the drilling process is very helpful, both in terms of the financial return and the timing to develop a project. I think there's sort of three major areas. In terms of power, obviously the base load factor that geothermal is very hard to find the fuel source, but once you do, and a plant is operating into it, you have low operating expenses and very high reliability. So that's tremendously of interest to investors at that stage once you have sort of that operating project. In terms of district heating, we're seeing a lot of interest there, I think particularly from more of a geopolitical perspective where you've seen is particularly in Europe a reliance on Russian gas that is now a bit more volatile, and so countries looking more towards that energy or heat security is very compelling, I think, both geopolitically as well as for investors. And then finally, in sort of the more impact or sustainable development goals space, direct use applications in sort of more emerging markets to do things like crop drying, milk pasteurization, fish farming, greenhouses, things that can really help, folks who are living at a subsistence level with farming or those types of things to protect their income and their assets and actually move beyond subsistence to have that food security and that economic security and promote economic growth. So you see a lot of donors and impact investors really interested in the direct use applications. I really think it's what we know, right? It's the drilling risk, which is, you're seeing a lot of technology coming in and AI trying to, mitigate some of that drilling risk. But fundamentally, you eventually have to put a rig on site and drill and see what you have. And so that's very hard. And then I think also the time horizon to develop projects when you think compared to like a solar or a wind project that can, be up and running in a year or so, and geothermal can be 5 years plus. That's also something that's hard for investors to contemplate when they're thinking about sort of their pipeline of investments. Again, anything that can be done to defray the cost of drilling is always there. But, I've seen there's a mechanism out there in the space called that the Climate Fund Managers does. It's called Climate Investor One. And it's a really unique approach where it's a series of interlinked funds. And so you have funding at sort of the development, construction, operations phase already pre-arranged at when an investment is approved. So if a geothermal project is approved to go forward in development, it's also approved for construction finance and refinancing during operations if it meets a certain set of criteria. And so I think that's one of the things that can not only lower the cost of financing, which is very valuable, but can also shrink that development time, because permitting and drilling are major factors in terms of the time it takes to develop geothermal. But what we don't think about sometimes is how much time is spent fundraising and doing project financing. And so if we can sort of squeeze those together and shorten that time horizon, I think that can be a really valuable economic tool and risk mitigation tool.